Dear students, we will continue with our next case study on the series that you have been doing. This would be our case study number 18, and this case study is also asked in the UPSC Civil Service Examination 2023. An interesting case study, a case study which brings to light today how to what extent the social media has been used, and to some extent it has also been used irresponsibly, and even the top officials or uh, having an impact of misuse of this social media. So, in this case study, how the social media, especially the adolescent kids in our country, are very much prone to use the social media, and if they are not given the right guidelines, and if they are not having, if they are not taught the right values, how the use of social media could affect others in the society. So, this is exactly what this particular case study is all about. So, let me just get into this particular case study, give a brief outline of this particular case study, and then we look into the directives that is given in this particular case study, and then we will try to solve these directives. All right. So, what is this case is all about? Let me just first brief. So, it is a case study where you will have to put yourself as a government servant. Let us assume that you are in a senior position in the government, and one day you got a call from the school principal of your son that the principal has asked you to come and meet him, and then subsequent to that you go there and meet the principal of the school. And during the meeting, the principal informs you that that your son has lost interest not only in the studies but also in the other extracurricular activities of late. And the school management wanted to bring this to your notice. And then subsequently, when you bring back your son from the school, you engage in a conversation with him, and after repeated persuasion to know as to what has caused all these things, your son opens up to you and he says that there are a lot of students in the class who are mocking him and who are making fun of him, especially in the social media like WhatsApp and the other applications. But however, he informs you all these things, but at the same time he asks you to leave the matter rest here, do not take it forward, and then you also do not take it very seriously after that. But then subsequent to this, after a few days, you go for one of the sporting events in the school along with your son. You go to your son's school, and there one of your colleagues son, who is also of the same age as that of your son, comes to you and he shows you a video which is again there in the social media platform, where they are the other students are trying to make a mockery of your son, or they are trying to mock your son. And this was brought to your attention, and the person who is informing this, the student who is informing this to you, is also pointing out the preparators of this video. And then subsequently you take your son, but you do not engage in any conversation, but you purposely take your son to show that he is your son. And the students who are the preparators of this particular video, they are also aware of the fact that you are doing this purposefully. And then subsequently what happens in the next day is very shocking to you. Next day you find that there is a video again in the social media which is criticizing not only you, your son, and also your wife. And a fake video has been made in such a way that you are engaging in physical abuse with the children in the school. And you are shocked to see this, and this was spread in the social media. You also get a call from number of your colleagues, and you are disappointed because of this particular social media. And one of your junior colleague in the office informs you that why don't you make a counter video to counter this fake propaganda against you in the social media, explaining as to what actually has happened, because he was also there and he has also got some videos. So listening his to advice, you also make a video next day subsequently, and based on whatever evidences you have. And also you wanted to bring out the ill effects of social media and how fake propaganda can affect the others. So this is the case is all about. Now in this case, there are few directives that is given in this particular question, and we'll have to answer these directives. In fact, try to understand that the responsible use of social media is very, very important. On the one hand, the constitution provides us the right to freedom of speech and expression, but can this right to freedom of speech and expression can be used to provide what is called as used to circulate fake news and the fake propaganda? This is something what we'll have to understand. Let us just proceed further. Let us try to understand about these things. All right. So come to the directives that is given in the question. So statement 1. So based on the above case study, discuss the ethical issues. So see the case here. So based on the above case study, discuss the ethical issues involved in the use of social media. 2. Discuss the pros and cons. Discuss the pros and cons using social media by you to put across the facts to counter the fake propaganda against your family. So these are the basic two directives that we have to answer in this particular case. So we'll just directly get into the case, but if you look into the overall stakeholders in this, fake propaganda can definitely affect anyone in the society. The society at large is a stakeholder, and every user is a stakeholder. And in this case, you can understand that the government official, you, your family members, your son, the school kids, the school management, all these people are stakeholders in this particular case. So let us just try to get into the first directive. So based on the above case study, discuss the ethical issues involved in the use of social media. So what are the ethical issues? The first thing in this particular case, the fake news is a big concern. It's an ethical issue. Not just the fake news that is circulated, how it can defame other individuals, how it can malign the reputation of other individuals in the society. That is again an ethical issue, because there's a lot of regulatory mechanisms are absent today in our country. Although we cannot say that there is no regulatory mechanism, but then it can already, before taking any action, it can already malign the reputation of an individual. So that's a serious concern that we have. Next is lack of accountability. So can you ensure accountability, especially for the misuse of the social media? And today in social media, one of the biggest problem that we have is that the social media also use end-to-end encryption, which the government of India is trying to work out, but still, yes, there is a lot of anonymity that can happen in the social media. That is again a big concern. And then the next problem is authenticity versus free speech. On the one hand, free speech is a fundamental right, but in the name of free speech, can you misuse it? Free speech today in our country is not an absolute right. It is subject to a lot of reasonable restrictions. But social media is still, there is a lot of scope to regulate all those things. So on the one hand, lack of regulation, on the other hand, free speech and the misuse of this free speech, which can malign the reputation of other individuals. These are all serious ethical concerns that which has to be addressed, not only in this particular case study, but in otherwise also. So what is very important is that there should be a responsible use of the free speech, especially when you are circulating the messages and the information in the social media. This also requires a lot of value education to the students, especially in the schools and also in the other educational institutions. Okay, so that has to be kept in our mind. Now come to the next directive that is given in the question. Discuss the pros and cons of using social media by you to put across the facts to counter the fake propaganda against your family. There is a fake propaganda, so what are the pros and cons? Because you already put a counter message, counter video. So what are the pros and cons? How do you see this? So what are the pros? If you see the pros, you of course have the right to respond. It is your right to respond. It is your right to protect your family. It is your right to protect the identity of your family. Someone who is putting a fake propaganda, you have to respond to that. So that's a positive thing. So if you keep silent also, then 100 times you say a lie, then it can become a truth. So automatically it can malign the reputation. So you have the right to not only protect your reputation, but also the identity of your family members as well. That is your basic right. But then what are the other advantages? We'll go to the disadvantage of these acts. And you are in a responsible position in the ministry, and hence it is imperative to that extent. So you're not just an ordinary citizen, but you are also holding a very important position in the government. So it is also very important to come out and clear the air, because you hold a very responsible position and the responsibility to protect your son and the family members. Of course, yes. So these are all the pros of these things. And also in this message, you also come across and say how the irresponsible use of social media can affect others. So it could be an eye opener to others as well. So this can also be taken seriously by the government in the future. Probably they can come out with certain measures. So all these things could be advantages, but on the contrary, what are the disadvantages? It could lead to an endless propaganda and further trolling, because you are targeting certain kids by putting a counter video, and these kids are adolescent kids who are not mature enough. And what if they again start doing these things, and you cannot put counter video again and again, and that is one of, could be the possible drawback. There is a possibility of all these things. And then the post is directed towards the adolescent kids. These kids, as I already said, they are not mature enough. They don't understand the consequences of what they do. In fact, the normal criminal laws do not apply to them, even if a case is filed against these kids. So, is it okay for you? And to some extent, it can malign the image of these kids as well. They are still in the budding stage. Tomorrow, they have to go to colleges and other education institutions. They have a life ahead. So, does this video in any way affect their future prospects? Is something that you have to take into consideration before we do this. Why don't you approach their parents and inform them regarding these things? And why don't you tell them, approach their parents, and probably they themselves can put a video and delete these videos, so that it would be a better way of addressing the damage to the reputation that has been caused by these videos. That's an alternative way of thinking about it. So here we are not definitely seeing whether the act has been right or wrong. We are only just trying to understand the pros and cons of these actions and overall how the social media could be regulated in our country. Okay, so this is what this particular case study is all about. So we have done with the case study, but before I complete the discussion, so one small announcement from StudyIQ is StudyIQ has launched its prelims to interview live online batches, a new version of batches for the month of October. So all the batches will begin at 6 p.m. It would be an evening batch, evening online live batch, which is starting on 15th of October. And the batches are available in the different languages. So as per the requirement of the students, you can take admissions in any of the languages. And what is important is it is available in different durations as well. Somebody wanted to appear for the examination next year, they can take up the 18 months course. Somebody who wanted to take up probably after 2-3 years still in the college, so they can take up the other batches with a validity of 30 months and 42 months. But on all these courses, any of these courses, if you want an additional discount, you can use my code Babu. All right. So with that, we come to the end of this particular discussion. Thank you very much for watching this particular lecture. So in addition to what you have discussed, you can also put your own comments and the suggestions that what could be done under the various possible circumstances or the directives that is given in the case. All the very best. Thank you very much. God bless.